All right. So for week 5 Tuesday, we're doing another in-class discussion about an AP prompt and student responses. So last time, B-Day students got to have the in-class portion of the discussion, and A-Day students had to create an online post with their assessment of how the student responses should have been scored. This time we switch, and A-Day students will be talking about counter arguments and conclusion paragraphs in class. We will take a look at this AP essay, former AP essay. We'll look at the student responses, and we will verbally discuss how we would score those student responses and why. For B-Day students, since you will not be in class for this discussion, I'm going to talk about these items briefly with you, just go over them real briefly so you have some guidance, and then you will have to create an online discussion post to the response. Yeah, okay. Anyways, I'll just get started. So, first off, counter arguments. Counter arguments are a tricky thing to do in a rhetorical analysis essay, but they are much easier to do in an argument essay or in the synthesis essay, which at its core is basically an argument essay. So the advantage of doing an effective counterargument is it could snag you that sophistication point. Now, obviously, you can't just throw in any, random bit of information that doesn't agree with your overall point. It has to be done well. But a good counterargument will address the arguments of the other side, concede any positions that do not kind of jibe with your argument, or shoot the argument down from the opposing side. So these two methods are identified here. So you can either identify the argument made and shoot it down, which is, a super great thing, kind of anticipating the arguments of the other side, or you can make a strategic concession. And the reason that a strategic concession can be good is that it can make you seem a little bit more open-minded and objective. Kind of like with the Rogerian argument, how addressing the argument of the opposing side first made you seem, more empathetic and more objective. Kind of the same thing. Now, you don't want to make this strategic concession a leading point of your essay in the same way that the Rogerian essay did, but it's useful to still have it in there to say, now I absolutely understand that in certain situations, blah, 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 blah is the case. However, most of the time, still, this is the case, etc. So here are examples of those. So this is the shoot the other side's argument down example, and this is a concede a point to the other side example. And both of them are about a novel that you probably aren't familiar with, Brave New World, another satire dystopia from the future. It's kind of in the same genre category as Fahrenheit 451. But anyways, point being that these are some examples of how to effectively use a counter argument. Either of these methods are completely fine. Both of them will make you seem more sophisticated as a writer. So that's some good information to have. And then conclusion paragraphs. So I've mentioned that conclusions are, in the big scheme of things, not the most essential part of your AP essay. I have seen a few AP essays that kind of got away without having a conclusion. But it's a good thing to have, and it can be effective and help out your essay ultimately, depending on what type of conclusion you use. There are two different types of conclusions that this information covers: the summary conclusion and the non-summary conclusion. So summary conclusion is probably what you've been taught so far, and I'll often teach it just because it's simple and it's clear and it allows you to restate your key points and just kind of, tie things up with a bow. Now, for an AP essay, you probably want to start leaning towards learning how to use a non-summary conclusion. It is more sophisticated. So rather than just summarizing what you've already said, you sort of continue the discussion, make a connection to a larger theme, and blend the thesis into a discussion of this larger theme. So you will restate the thesis, but you'll give it a slightly different context than a summary conclusion would. So sometimes you want to add a clincher in there, is the term that this resource uses. And sometimes that can refer back to the attention grabber for the introduction or a reference to a major detail from the body of the essay. When I think of this clincher, I almost immediately think of the essay that we read together by Leonard Pitts, the one about social media and the 20-year-old college kid who got shot on the train. The way that he took out, that detail from kind of in the middle of his essay about looking down and brought it back for his conclusion, saying, communications technology has taught us to look down in search of connection. This incident is a cruel reminder. Sometimes we need to look up as well. So that, I think, is a really great example of a clincher. It just brings back something that you've already said, adds to it in a new and innovative way, and just really effectively closes out your piece. So anyways, these are some ways that you can do a kind of non-summary conclusion. You could just kind of continue discussion and end with thesis. You could refer back to your opening or your hook, reword the thesis with the clincher, and the clincher very often creates, some sort of a reference to the future, look to the future. Or you could bring in a theme with the reworded thesis. So I'll let you take a look at those options, see if one appeals to you more than the other, and you can kind of start practicing with it so that by the time the AP exam rolls around, you have got conclusion paragraphs in the bag and they don't take up your time, and you can just, end it with a few sentences to close things out. You'll notice none of these conclusions are terribly long. They're between 2 and 4 sentences. You should not ever, on an AP essay, spend your time writing a really long, exhaustive conclusion. I mean, A, you just don't have the time, but B, it's really not going to help you very much, because the only thing that the conclusion could really assist you with is, again, maybe that sophistication point. Having the thesis in there, again, is good too. That can, potentially help with your thesis point if you were perhaps a little vague in the first paragraph. But ultimately, that kind of look to the future, look to the broader context, or, something like that can be an opportunity to show off sophistication. Okay, so that's my words on counter paragraphs. Good lord, counter arguments and conclusions. Now let's look at our practice argument. So the argument essay always has the shortest prompts of any of the other essays. The synthesis essay, obviously you're dealing with a lot of articles you have to read along with it. The rhetorical analysis essay, usually at least has a little bit of length. The argument essay is usually a few sentences. Ta-da! So that's one of the nice things about them. So this one says, in her book, Gift from the Sea, author and aviator Anne Morrow Lindbergh writes, "We tend not to choose the unknown, which might be a shock or a disappointment, or simply a little difficult to cope with. And yet it is the unknown, with all its disappointments and surprises, that is the most enriching." So they've presented you with a quote from someone, and that quote takes a position and takes a certain perspective. So then they give you the prompt. Consider the value Lindbergh places on choosing the unknown. Then write an essay in which you develop your own position on the value of exploring the unknown. Use appropriate, specific evidence to illustrate and develop your position. Okay, so for this essay, you very clearly have kind of one of two positions to embrace. The unknown is good and enriching and rewarding and positive, or choosing the unknown is negative and bad and, harmful in some way, shape, or form. Now, I'll tell you that the vast majority of these student essays, they go with the value of the unknown and say that it's enriching and good. I think there's maybe one essay that deviates from that, And unfortunately, it doesn't do a very good job. So, most of these essays you'll see will talk about the advantages of pursuing the unknown and exploring new life experiences and, all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of what you should expect to see. Now for the student responses, once again, I have samples A through I believe. And once again, you have a variety. You have some killer essays that are awesome and wonderful and very well done. And you have some rotten essays that should make you feel very, very good about yourself as a writer. Ah, yes, look at the beauty of sample H. Disappointment. That is this essay. All right, so hope I'm not spoiling too much by hinting at that, but we have a lot of variety here. So I ask you, of course, to read these essays, and maybe while you're going through, maybe jot down some thoughts. And once you have read the essays, then you will create your post here. So if you click this reply, here, a little paragraph thingy opens up. I'm sure you remember this from the July 4th discussion. And all I'm asking you to do here is just give me the essay sample letter, give me a number, 0 through 6, and then give me just like a brief reason why you thought that essay was lacking or why you thought it was exceptional and good. You will definitely want to check out the argument grading rubric under week 1 Monday essay scoring rubrics. Actually, that's a lie. It was week 2 because our week 1 became conference week. I'll fix that. But anyways, it's under week 2 Monday under essay scoring rubrics. The last of the essay scoring rubrics is the argument scoring rubric. So take a look at that. Remind yourself about all the points that can possibly be allocated for certain things. And then you create your post here and you press post reply, and then you'll be able to see other people's posts. And, feel free to respond to them and tell them, what a genius they are, or how horribly they have interpreted the quality of an essay or anything like that. But yeah, I will give the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like my online discussion of how the essays actually were. So like the real scores and the real reasons they got those scores. I'm going to do that just before you have your first argument essay, which will be on Monday. So for the week 6 Monday YouTube video explanation, this is where I will talk about the essays and their quality and, why they got the scores that they did. So I figure since that's another A day, you'll probably be looking at this video anyways to prepare yourself for the argument essays. So hopefully that'll work out well. So anyways, take your time, read all the student examples, give your thoughts. Again, I'm not grading you on whether you can accurately identify the score, though, if you say an essay is a 6 when it's a 0, I'm going to be deeply concerned. But I'm not going to count off or anything, even if you're way off base. The goal is just to get you knowing what good writing looks like. Even if you can't do it just yet, I want you to at least be able to recognize it. So that is all for week 5 Tuesday.